After 20 years of chronic back pain, multiple failed surgeries, and being told that she would never qualify for a disc replacement procedure, Maryland teacher and mom of two teens, Rachel Schenk is here, and boy, does she have a story. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
We're so happy you're here. Okay, I'm going to give a quick overview of your story, which is that you finally found the treatment that gave you your life back. You've had a 2-level disc replacement. And the amazing thing about your story is that you have this unbelievable bucket list of things that you wanted to be doing that you could not do with back pain. And you are now checking one thing after another off of that list, both big and small. And that's what we want to talk about today, because this is a list you never thought you would get to write, much less even complete, right?
Yes, I was hoping for the list and did not think I was ever going to get there. So it's been very exciting couple of months.
Okay, so we're doing this episode as we head towards the new year. That's a time when a lot of people are making lists like this, setting goals, making resolutions. And our thought is that if you've lived with pain long enough, the idea of a bucket list like this might even feel absurd. But we don't want people to give up on it. If you have a list like this, if there's things that you want to do, Rachel, I think your story reminds us that no matter how long you've been in pain, do something about it and get to your list. So let's jump in and talk about it, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, overview of you. You're a 35-year-old teacher. You're a mom of two in Maryland. And back pain for you started when you were a teen at the age of 14. Is that right? And you told me
Yes.
at the time when you talked about it, people dismissed you as whining.
Yeah, I think it was the 90s, the 2000s. And I had a hose drinking childhood outdoors, and so I think to say like, oh hey, my back hurts was kind of a different like vibe than what was kind of going on back then. So it wasn't until I was maybe 15 I started missing school. I started skipping school on PE days because I didn't want to run. And my parents were like, you can't skip school. And, they wanted to be good parents and they wanted me to be at school. And so they were like, I said, my back really hurts when I run. And they were like, you're making excuses to skip school and that sort of thing. So it did start really young. And I think I didn't maybe advocate for myself very well. And as an adult now, I'm like, why did I let that go? But at the time, I was a kid. And, I just didn't know that wasn't how everybody felt.
And it's hard. So, you said your first surgery was at 18, but instead of scanning your spine, they recommended a breast reduction surgery. Yes?
Yes. And I had a family member at the time that had had one maybe a year before, and she was like, oh, my back feels so much better. And I think everyone kind of had that aha of like, oh, this could really help Rachel's back. And so the summer between high school and college, I had a breast reduction, and I started college on like in recovery. And so I wasn't allowed to take a PE course. And, I had all these limitations like day one of my freshman year. But it helped. I felt so much better. I thought that was it. That was the fix. It was not, but I thought so at the
But it was
time.
not. Right here that we're giving away, yeah, the storyline a little bit. It was not. So you said back pain was your constant companion for the next like 20 years. At what point did you realize it wasn't normal to have that kind of back pain and for that long?
I think after I had my first son, the whole time I was pregnant, I said my back hurts like crazy, and they were like, "Yeah, pregnant ladies' backs hurts." Like that's kind of a thing, right? And I was like, "Yeah, that's why." But even when my son was an infant, and I saw all these moms like strapping their babies to their chest with these very cute wraps and things, and I was like, "You could not pay me to carry that child around. My back is killing me all the time." And so I kind of had this aha moment of like, something's not quite right. And when I say that my back hurts, I mean something else than what other, because they were slinging these carriers around and hoisting kids into car seats, and I just could do none of that. And I was constantly asking my husband, hey, can you put the kid in the car? Hey, can you carry the kid around? Hey, can you do this? And so I got to the point where I was like, maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not being a whiner. Maybe I'm not being lazy. Maybe it's like something's wrong at a level different than
And it
what I
got
was seeing
worse
my
too.
friends.
Yes, for sure. And then you also you had a first rupture of a disc because you were running at the time in your 20s too, right? Is that it all
No,
kind of was happening around the same time?
No, I had completely given up running because my back pain was so bad. I used to run 10Ks,
Okay.
and my whole family is into running races and things. And so it was very natural for me to fall into that. But I just got to the point where I couldn't run without 2 or 3 weeks of pain afterwards, and it was not worth it. And
It
then
was too much.
I
Okay.
I ruptured a disc when my son was 4 on his birthday because I was sitting on the floor wrapping his presents. I leaned too far to get the tape and I felt a little pop, and that was it.
Oh gosh. Okay. So your first procedure was at 29, is that right? Was that the fusion you had?
Well, I had a discectomy first, or a hemidiscectomy to help with the ruptured disc. But they
Okay, wait,
told me
let
at
me
the
start
time,
this one again because my notes. Hold on,
okay.
let me start this again. Okay. What was the first procedure you had?
I had my first back procedure was a hemidiscectomy when I was about 29 because I had ruptured that disc. They went in and just kind of scraped out the little pieces. But they kind of told me at the time, they're like, if you ever do anything strenuous, it'll finish rupturing. And so this is just sort of a band-aid for now. I didn't have high hopes for that
Mm.
one initially.
All right. Give us a quick run through of the other surgeries you had.
About 2 years later, I had a fusion because I did fully rupture that disc. I shoveled the snow out of the sidewalk so I could put the trash cans out, and that was it. I had blown it out. So at the time, they said my discs and everything were just too damaged. There was no option except a fusion. And so that's what I did. I just wanted to be able to sit down and lay down and function again. Um, and they told me at the time, because I had 3 discs that were damaged and one ruptured, they fixed the ruptured one. The other 2 would follow. They said, we hope you get 5 or 10 years out of it, but you will ultimately have to have these replaced or fixed as well. But my husband's military moved all over, so only 3 months after the fusion, we left New Jersey, and I didn't have like follow up care the way that I probably should have. But I was fixed there. My spine was fused. There was no reason for me to go get checked in anywhere else. And then over time, it just gradually got worse and worse and worse. And so I kind of knew it was a ticking time bomb, and started to reach out to surgeons.
So how did you find your way to Dr. Haines? And what, you went to a lot of different doctors and you were trying to see if you could avoid another fusion. Yes. But you said
Yes.
you had some doctors be not very kind in your search, right? Tell us what happened.
Um, yeah, so I initially reached out to a local surgeon in my area that was on my like insurances list of here's people we cover, right? And he was the only one on the list whose website said disc replacement. And so what I really wanted was to sit down with somebody who did disc replacement and fusion and say which is the best, because I felt like my first fusion they had said that's your only option. And I love yoga, I love being active, and so to say like you will never move the same again felt really final. So I just wanted someone to say like the final fusion thing is for you. This one's not because of this reason or whatever, right? And so when he ran all the tests and he did X-rays and everything, he said, "Yeah, we're going to go ahead and schedule you for both fusions." And I said, "That seems like really sudden to have 2. That's a like fusions are super painful surgeries. Like this is a lot. What about disc replacement?" And he literally laughed and was like, "No," and didn't really give me a reason. Just kind of like chuckled. I was like, "Okay." So then I went home and I was like, "Oh my gosh, why did he laugh?" And I kind of had like a lot of like not great feelings about it. I cried to my husband, like, why was he mean to me? And it was such a negative experience to get laughed at in the office without a reason, right? So I canceled my
Right. To
scheduled
not even
yeah.
explain.
I was like, that's not what I was
Yeah.
looking for. So I canceled my scheduled fusions, and just went back in for another follow up. And I said, I'm not ready to commit to a fusion. I would like to talk more about the disc replacement. And he said, my weight is too high. My bone density is really weak and couldn't support a disc replacement. That because we're talking about my lumbar spine, that it's too low. And because I already have a fusion, disc replacement's not an option for me. And he gave me a long list of reasons, and they seemed well rehearsed. That he was like checking his fingers off as he went, and so I started to get the impression of why he was laughing, because it seemed so outside his realm of possibility. That he was like, here are a dozen reasons why it's a no for you, that he didn't even bother to explain it to me the first time. And he said, but if you're not ready for a fusion, I'm happy to wait, because whenever you do get your fusions, you start the clock on the next one. Then when we do the top one, the next one will start to go. And in about 5 or 6 years, that one will need to be fused, and that'll start the timer on the next one. And over the next 40 or 50 years, we will zip up your spine level by level. And he called it adjacent segment syndrome or disease or something like that. And he really painted a very grim picture of my spinal health going forward, and that at some point I would be literally fused from neck to hip, and have a super painful surgery every 5 or 6 years. So he said, if you want to wait 6 more months, that's fine. Like, that'll give us enough time. But whenever you're too miserable to live and to function anymore, you can come back and we'll schedule you. We'll just give you a standing reservation for fusions. And I was like, that's crazy. I told my husband, I was like, that can't be good. Um, so
Mm-mm.
I reached out to the surgeon that did my fusion initially. And when I reached out, I found out that he had left his practice that I was at before, and he had started a disc replacement only um, surgery center. And so I said, hey, you do disc replacements now. Can you evaluate these records? And he was like, you are 100% a candidate for disc replacement just based on these things that you've sent me. I'd like to work more with you. We're going to schedule you. But my insurance like nixed it. And he said, I don't want to put you through the cost of this. So I'm going to put you in touch with somebody in your area, and maybe your insurance will cover something. And so that's how we ended up at Dr. Haines and BSI. Was, I guess they had met and they were surgeon bros or something. I don't know. They were buddies. And
All right, we're gonna fast forward at this
okay.
point because I want people to know that yes, you got the disc replacement. It was a 2-level disc replacement. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how quickly did you start to feel better?
It took maybe a month or 6 weeks. That when I had the fusion and I woke up the first time, I was cured. Like, my back was so solid because there was titanium rods holding it together. And when I woke up from the fusion, the instructions are don't bend, don't move, and I was very nervous to do anything that would potentially jeopardize it. So my dog is just whining. So
It's
I
okay.
um,
Was it different with the ADR?
It was a slower release into comfort. The surgery is a front surgery rather than a back surgery. I've had many back surgeries, like from the back, so I had never had a front one. So like the incision was weirdly located. My back was still sore. Like, there had been a lot of things happening, and so it just was like I was nervous to lay down, but I was nervous to sit, and I was nervous to get up. And I walked very slow everywhere. My husband kind of called me the snail for a while because I just took such little tiny baby steps everywhere I went. And it really took a long time. I had a couple weeks of like, what have I done? I'm so uncomfortable, but that's just the surgery, like, recovery, like, process. As soon as I started to get out of that first couple weeks, I was like, oh, I really just laid in bed for an hour and didn't hurt. That was cool. And I watched a whole movie without having to switch couches. And that's cool. But, like, that was not something I had been able to do for years. I had just, anytime I got laying down or tried to get comfortable, I was never comfortable. So that was kind of my first sign that, like, oh, okay, this worked. That I really can just lay in bed for hours comfortably.
Tell me about the bucket list because we tell your story in that background so people understand that you were in a lot of pain for a long time in life. So had you been writing your bucket list your whole life? Did you start it after the surgery? How did that unfold that you created that list?
I had been making a mental list for a long time. So when I went out with my friends to the bar, I would always have to drag over a chair because I needed the back to it, right? And I just wanted to be like my friends and sit in a trendy stool. And so it wasn't something that I really like had really verbalized or articulated to even myself very well. But I made notes of where I had been different, where my back pain had held me back. And as I got to about the 2 month mark after recovery, and I was really like starting to be pain free, and really just like, oh, this is really a thing. Like, I am actually not in pain anymore. I made a list because I wanted to go to my 3 month follow up, and I wanted to have Dr. Haines like sign off on everything. Hey, Dr. Haines, can I go horseback riding? Is that an approved activity? And hey, Dr. Haines, if I want to go rock climbing, am I allowed to do that? Right? Because the recovery process is full of rules, and
He gets
nobody
asked about
knows
roller
that.
coasters a lot, he says.
And
He
I
says a lot of people ask him, "Am I allowed
roller
to ride a roller coaster?"
Yes, I am
Was
super
that on
like
your
I
list?
would, no, I would throw up. I'm not into a roller coaster. So but I had a couple other things, like some things I
What
knew would
did
probably be okay. Like, oh, I can fly, I can be on a plane, which is super difficult before, required many medications. Um, and so some
did
things I was
he
like,
okay your whole list?
he
Or
did.
did he
I
just
said, I'm
say,
gonna go
"Rachel, do you
kayaking. Yeah. No, he was like, you can do whatever you want. I was like, no, but I need for you to tell me specifically, am I allowed to go kayaking? Okay. What about the next, and I really made him go through it. He kept being like, yes, yes, you can. Okay, all of the things you can do them. And I was like, but what about running? Can I run a 5K? And he was like, yes. Like, and I think after I got to like the 10 or 12 thing, he was like, Rachel, actually all of the things you can do them. Like, no problem.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about all the things. I think I love this list you put together because we asked you to put together a list of the big and the small, the physical and like just the moving life things. So let's start with some of the physical stuff. You
Okay.
mentioned kayaking, which you hadn't done
Yeah.
in years. You talked about, yeah, you ran a turkey trot. The one I loved is that you walked the long outer walkway at a minor league baseball game. You didn't take the shortcut. You took the long
No.
way and bike riding with your kids at a state park. Talk
Yes.
about how meaningful these things were and was there any pain at all?
Well, no pain ever. But I had been a sidelines mom, like my kids play sports and I was always on the sidelines. But when we went to the state park, I'd say, I'm going to hang out here in the car and you guys go ride bike because I couldn't do it. I didn't want them to miss out. Um, hey, I'm going to sign you up for a kayaking class because I can't show you, but you have an interest and you want to do it. I like kayaking. Their dad likes kayaking. We all like kayaking, but I can't do it. But I'll watch you. So I had always been on the sidelines. So it was so cool to get to do it. And I think my kids were just like, I didn't know you knew how to ride a bike, mom. Like, please, I'm a 90s girl. Like, I know how to ride. I lived on a bike. Like, my whole childhood was bike.
You
And so
just
to be
haven't
like,
seen me do it. Yeah.
right. And they were like, mom, you biked up the whole hill. I was like, yeah, I did. I know how to ride a bike.
All
It's
right,
fine.
those who are watching us on YouTube are seeing photos of some of your adventures. If you're just
Okay. Oh,
listening,
gosh.
go check out the YouTube version of this because, right, Rachel not only has a list, she has photographic proof of all of the things she's knocking off. One of the ones I loved under your physical items were it wasn't the doing of the thing, it was the getting to the thing. So driving an hour each way somewhere without
Yes.
pain, you had traveling back to your home state, that walking the long way at a baseball game or to your parked car. That's something you may not even like. Did you realize that you were missing out on those things, or was it not until you felt better that you were like, oh, wait, I can do this too?
I had kind of before my like original surgery, I had scheduled to go to a music festival with my girlfriends, my whole like book club. There was like 10 of us all going to this big music festival. We were seeing my like favorite singer. I was super excited. But it was a 6 hour drive to like, Kentucky, I think it were Tennessee. And as we got closer and closer, I was like, there's no way that I make it through a 6 hour car ride. And even if I survive it, I'm not going to be like, oh, I want to go party at a music festival for 3 days and stand around. And there's no way. So I coughed up my tickets. I gave them to somebody else. And I just said, if I could teleport there, cool, it would be fun, but I can't. So that was the first time that I really was like, hey, I think the travel time is a problem. I mean, it was like, 6 hours is a long drive. But then it became like,
It
hey,
is.
the 2 hours to my in-laws is like, I'm just miserable. I have to lay down as soon as I get there. And, all of those things. So as soon as that went away, it just opened the floodgates of like, I can go to a concert. I can go to the state park. I can go everywhere and not be like trapped in like my little area because I couldn't sit that long.
Wow. How meaningful was it to knock the turkey trot off the list and get back to running?
That was amazing. I just, even in my wildest dreams, I told Dr. Haines initially, like, I love running, but like I get it. I have many back problems, and if I never get there, like I'll take the win anyway, you know. So when he said running was like okay, I was like, what about my knees? I'm almost 40 now, you know, like I don't know if running's for me. So to get to do it, I started super slow because I was so nervous. I was like, I'm gonna run for 1 minute and just slowly get there. So to get to do a turkey trot with my kids, they're like, Mom, you're running too fast, and that sort of thing. You know, I beat a bunch of teenagers, so I'll take that, even though it's very cold out.
That's amazing. All right. And then, I mean, true bucket list item, you've signed up to do something really amazing over spring break. Tell me about that.
Yes, I love the ocean. I have a degree in marine biology because I'm a giant fish nerd, right? Like I went to school for 4 years to study fish. And so I have always wanted to go to the Atlanta Aquarium because whale sharks are my favorite fish. They're the biggest, coolest fish, right? And so this spring break, I got the opportunity to go swim or I guess snorkel in the shark tank at the Georgia Aquarium with whale sharks and manta rays. And I'm just so excited. My brother is coming. My friends are there. Like, we have to see this moment. Like, we finally got her there. You have to wear a weight belt. You have to be able to like be physically capable of swimming away from a big shark. And, you know, there's some like physical requirements that I wasn't up for. So this has been like, I feel good. My surgery's gone well. I'm like, this is it. This is the moment that I get to do the thing I've always wanted to do.
Ugh, so this podcast is airing. That gives me goosebumps, Rachel. This is airing holiday time as we head into the new year when hopefully other people are making the list of those things. Yeah, those big ticket items. So it's just so incredible to hear that you can do that, and I hope it inspires other people. I do want to talk about some of the things that may seem smaller, or I wonder if people are
Mhm.
even. I don't know that people put these things on their bucket list, but I love that you did. So you talked about music and how much you love that. You were saying, you know, you couldn't do concerts very easily, and you've done several now.
Yes.
When was your surgery again?
It was in March, so about 8 or 9 months ago.
Okay. And so how many concerts have you done? And does it hurt while you're there? What's it like?
No. So the first concert I did was like a week. It was in July, so a week after I got off of all of the surgery restrictions, and I was like, Dr. Haines, I need to be off of restrictions so I can go to this concert. And it is my favorite band of all time. They broke up for like 15 years and they got back together for like 5 shows, and I was like, I'm going. I will
Who
not
was
miss.
it?
It's a band called Brand New, which no one has heard of. All 15,000 of their fans went to Philly for this one concert that I went to. So um,
Wow.
they're really, really great. Go listen to them. But so it was just such a cool experience to see my like favorite band for 20 years actually live. I got to go see them. We drove through like a monsoon to get there. The weather was terrible. We stood in the rain to listen to them, but it was great. Really enjoyed it. So that is the first of the three concerts we went to. All concerts have lots of drive time to get to them, lots of waiting for the doors to open, and lots of standing. And so those things are things that
And
like really
walking
struggle
and
with.
yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes I feel like my back start to tighten a little, like, you know, just like, it feels a little tired. Um, but as soon as I sit down or get in my car, like it's obviously muscular. Like my muscles are a little weak and I'm still working on building that strength back up from years of not using my back. But it's so different from the like chronic I wake up in pain. I am in pain all day. This makes my pain unmanageable. I have to now spend days recovering from this one activity. So to just be like, I went to a concert, I super enjoyed myself, I sat back down and I was done is like, oh my gosh, such a night and day difference,
Mind
right?
blowing.
Like I'm not in my
Yeah.
20s anymore. I'm, you know, a middle-aged lady now. So, you know, like I have my aches and pains, but it's just so different than that chronic pain. So I am not complaining at all. It's been such a
Yeah.
really rewarding experience to get to go.
Okay. Some of the other life, just daily life ones that I loved. Carrying dog food at the pet store, sitting at the bar stool with not needing back support when you meet friends at the bar, sleeping more at night. And the one that got me was being able to lift the family's 50-pound cast iron pan for taco night. Talk about any and all of these for me.
Well, the cast iron is like really big. right. And it's definitely like a two-hander, but I couldn't even move it from like the stove to the counter without needing help because it's just massive. Um, and so that's been nice. Like I feel like it's a lot of independence that I don't have to ask my teenager to come to the store with me to get the water bottles or the dog food or whatever it is. Right, I can manage that by myself. The sleep one has been life changing. If I got nothing else out of this, the sleep is worth it. That I used to have trouble falling asleep, and then I would get up at 2 in the morning and stay awake until 4 or 5, and then catch an hour or two, and then get up for work. And I was just constant. I fell asleep in the chair. I was just constantly overtired and fatigued, and I was struggling at work and in all my things because I just could not sleep. I couldn't get comfortable for more than a couple hours. Even on all of the medications and things I was taking to manage pain, it wasn't enough. And I didn't ever
I
think
mean,
of that
the
as
point,
something.
yeah, the point of this episode, Rachel, is not just to say, look at all the cool things Rachel is doing, although we can do an episode just on that. But the reason that we want you to talk about all these cool things is because it seemed impossible to you for a really long time.
Yeah.
And now, it's completely possible. So, um, I want you now to talk to someone else who's listening or watching right now who either can't even contemplate making a list or, you know, maybe it just feels too daunting or out of reach. I mean, you had 20 years where you couldn't do this list. So what would you tell people? How important is it to create the list? Do you have to get the help before you make the list? Like what have you learned in doing this? What's your advice to other people?
I think you should definitely make a list. That without the list, you don't have a direction, right? You don't have a goal. You don't have a time frame. You just sort of wandering around. But I think the list has to be with the help. That the list only manifested because I sought help, and the help was the reason for articulating the list. And the two really have to go together. And if anything, I wish I had done this all 10 years ago, right? Like, I wish I had done it when my kids were little and I could enjoy their whole childhood and not just these sassy teenage years. And, like, I wish I had done it earlier. But I'm glad that I've
Well,
done it now. And I
we
didn't
hear
waste
that from
4 years.
everyone.
I'm sure. I'm sure that does not.
Right, you exactly. You did not wait 10 more years, and everyone says, "I wish they had done that earlier." So yes, one takeaway is don't waste whatever the years are you have right now. Go seek help. Um, for anyone who's hesitating, who it feels like a lot to kind of get over, like you're dealing with the day-to-day pain, and then we're saying, go out there and swim with sharks and,
Yes.
do all these great, like it seems like a lot. So what is it that gets you over that hesitation hump? How do they
Um,
start?
I
How do they start?
I think research. Like, I lived on all of these Reddits and Mayo Clinic pages and just like trying to learn about what my pain was and where it came from and what the solutions were. And when I went to every medical appointment, I said, I want to know more. Dr. Haines was the first to really engage with that and say, I want to also know more. We're going to send you out for all these tests rather than just saying, here's an answer. And I appreciated that about him from the get go. It did make the process longer because I have a busy schedule. I can't just go take weeks off for testing, right? So I had to wait for this appointment or that appointment or whatever it was. But I really just wanted the information. And once we had that in hand, the choice was so clear. It was not like, which one should we do? They'll both be okay. It was like, you need this one. And that was really like, the bullseye moment for me. It was like, aha, we do need this. This is the path forward. And without the information and the research and talking to people and asking questions, I don't know that I ever would have really gotten there. So I think the first question is always just to ask and to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I love because, you had someone who completely shut you down and yet you still kept asking questions. And I think that's another great lesson from your story is to, right, a lot of times people get pushed to a fusion and for some it's the right thing, but for a lot of people, they don't even get the chance to investigate whether a disc
Right.
replacement would work for them. And so
Right.
push to at least have that conversation and figure it out, I think is another great takeaway from your story. Is what's on your bucket list now?
We have the spring season of baseball coming up. So I talked to my husband about potentially being an assistant coach. They're always saying we need coaches. There are not any other moms that coach, so I'm a little nervous to be like in the dad's club. But my husband's in the military and his schedule doesn't always allow for like that consistent like evening time. So I was like, I'll do it. I know a lot about baseball. I've watched a lot of games, right? And so to get to participate in sports at a little bit of like a more involved level, I'm really excited about. And my youngest is an aspiring pastry chef, so he does not know he's getting culinary classes for Christmas. So I'm super excited because he is only 12 that he has to have a parent go. So I'm like, I'll go. So I'm going to take these like really high level culinary classes with my son, which I never,
Stand up the whole
for two
time.
hours. Yeah, it's like a lot of like being at the stove and cooking and chopping and things that I just could not have sustained before. So I'm really excited for that one, but don't tell and so those are the big ones I'm looking forward to. And of course, the shark swim is like the big
and the
one.
shark.
Yes.
It's amazing. Well, Rachel, I think whether someone has a super long list like you do, or whether it's just one. I've talked to an amazing woman before, and her main goal was just to be able to carry the laundry basket up the steps. That's
Yeah.
okay. Like whether it's small or big, I think the lesson here is make that list. Life is short. If there's things that you want to get back to doing, don't let another year slip away in pain. So that's what I'd want to leave people with. What's your parting source of inspiration as they turn another calendar year?
I think just like you said, life is short. I wish I had done it sooner. But I'm glad I didn't wait any longer.
So don't wait another year. Do it. Make 2026 the year. Rachel, thank you so much for talking to us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.